I'm your host here on Schlick Sports, Noah Schlicksup. And before we get into today's video, as I announced in my last video, I have dropped a podcast. In this podcast, it's called Schlick Sports, Made in the River City. I interview athletes from Jacksonville, from high school to the pros. And today I'm sharing another interview with you from that podcast with U.S. swimmer Ryan Murphy. I had a blast getting to talk with Ryan, and I hope you enjoy this interview. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this before we get into it. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Noah. This is it's awesome to be on here.
Yeah, thank you again. And first off, you're an Olympian, you got multiple gold medals, and it all had to start somewhere, especially with you being born in Chicago. I mean, what got you into swimming up there?
Yeah, so pretty soon after I was born. So I was born in July of 1995. So I probably sound incredibly old to you, but I was born in July of 1995. We moved down to Jacksonville in December of that year, and so essentially just because it's so hot in Florida, my parents were always bringing us up to the community pool. We were in there every day, and then the second I was old enough, I joined that summer league swim team. And then it was kind of off to the races from there.
Yeah, I had seen in your second grade book they had shown on the Olympics you had written you want to be an Olympian and break world records. So that's really cool. But while I was researching for this, I had seen a article that mentioned something you did before every race when you were a kid, and it was it was pretty funny. So I thought, could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So growing up, every day, my mom would make us a peanut butter and jelly. That would be in our lunchbox when we went to school. It's what we'd have after school, right before practice, and then at swim meets, we were draining some PB and J's as well. So when I got to college, my first year, I wasn't cooking at all. So I was eating the normal stuff before swim meets. I was trying the spaghetti and meat sauce. That's typically a good pre-workout snack. It just wasn't for me. So I went back to the PB and J's after that short hiatus. But I still do it before every race.
Yeah, well, that wasn't actually what I was talking about. I was talking about the puke bucket here.
Oh God, yeah, no, I always try to stay away from that topic. Not great memories there. But when I was younger, I used to get super nervous before every single race. It honestly didn't even matter what the competition was. River or in the summer league swimming, I would get super nervous. I'd throw up before every single race. So it got to the point where the girls on my team made me a little puke bucket. They decorated it. They wrote Ryan's puke bucket on there, and I'd bring it up behind the blocks before every single race. Do my business right before the race, intimidate the people around me, and then get up and try to swim fast.
Yeah, that would be a great sight for those other swimmers there for sure. And then fast
So,
forwarding here to high school, you went to the Bowl School where they have an amazing swim program here. So I was just wondering about how that time there affected you as a swimmer, and what were some of your favorite memories and moments there?
yeah, bowls was an incredible experience. I started going to bowls in 8th grade, and the swim team was a big part of that decision. I knew that I had a talent for swimming at that point, and so the kind of the conversations that were going on between me and my parents were, all right, Ryan, what do you want to do? What do you want to do in this sport? Do you want to give yourself the best opportunity to go swim at a really great college and potentially make the Olympics one day? And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to be around. And so I went to bowls. Definitely, it was definitely an intense atmosphere. Like showing up, I was used to being on really small teams growing up, where I was one of the faster kids or one of the faster people on the entire team as like a 10, 11, 12-year-old. Going to bowls, there were people that were Olympians on the team. So it was kind of starting from the bottom and seeing how far I could push it. And that's what I did. It felt like every year, every day, I was trying to chase those big guys. I'd line up next to them where I could compete every single day. And as I kind of progressed in my career, some other people started to come in. So a guy like Joseph Schooling, who ended up winning the 100 fly at the 2016 Olympics, he came in the year after I went. And then I think the next year, Santo Condorelli showed up, and he's an Olympian he went for Canada, and then he went for Italy. And I'm pretty sure he won a medal this time around. So another Olympic medalist. And then Caleb Dressel joined the group the year after, and Caleb won 5 golds in Tokyo this time around. So we had a stacked group of training partners out there, and it was fun. Like, it was fun to just like go at it with those guys every single day. Show up to junior nationals, try to win some relays with them. So I think honestly the meets, the competitions were probably my favorite part of my time at Bowls.
That's the dream team right there.
Hey, it was very good. Yeah, we had some good talent in the water. So it was definitely fun to get after it with those guys.
Yeah, Bowls has got some great talent all around. Like, they got Mac Jones, who I've talked to here. He's up with the Patriots now. You got Chipper Jones.
Crushing it.
What?
Yeah, Mac Jones has been doing great.
Oh, yeah, he's fun to watch. And
yeah,
then
he's looking good.
Chipper Jones in baseball, and they even got someone who went to the NBA. It's just crazy the talent they produce. So if you could choose a reason for, that, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think so much of success in really any industry is a culture. So at Bowls, it's pretty. Sports are valued. Obviously, academics are really valued, and there's been some really great academics that have come out of Bowls. But on the sports side, that's valued too. So, it's nice to go through a season and your teachers know what's going on in the sports season, and it doesn't mean you're getting any breaks on anything. They're still gonna try to work you pretty hard in the classroom, but it's valued. There's a tradition there. So when the standard is really high, people are going to rise to the occasion. I've always thought that. So kind of just the tradition and the value that's placed on it. I think those are definitely the contributing factors.
Yeah, that's tough for any area team. My Knights finally got you in football last year. But man,
congrats! There you go. What grade are you in?
I'm a freshman this year.
Oh man, God, you're young. I love it. This is very cool that you're doing this. I love it.
Thank you, Ryan. So then you went on to another, pretty good program in Cal. Now I'm gonna admit I don't know too much about college swimming, but from what I can tell, Cal seems to be a pretty powerhouse program. What made you want to go there?
Yeah, so a couple of things. At the time that I was looking at college, Cal was definitely they definitely had the momentum on their side. They were getting a little bit better each year. They just won a national championship, and the coaches were young. They still are young. So the biggest thing is I wanted to go to a program that had a similar type of philosophy that got me good. So essentially, a program that had a similar philosophy to Bowls. And then I wanted coaches that were young. So if I ended up having a great career, I wanted this to be my last stop. Like I didn't want to have to go through another coaching change. So that was something that was important for me. On the academic side, like I wanted to be in a place where if I got injured tomorrow and I couldn't swim, I wanted to go to a school that I would not have gotten into without swimming. And Cal is an incredible academic school as well. And then the guys on the team, like I wanted guys that were pretty just comfortable with themselves. Like there's a lot of, when you go through recruiting, there's a lot of not acting, but there's a recruiting pitch. So people are going to really treat you well and go about it that way. The Cal guys, they treated me great, but it felt real. And I think I had a good gauge on the type of guys that I would be around. And now, I mean, most of my best friends were guys that I swam with at Cal. So it all turned out great.
Oh, yeah. And especially for you, you had a historic college career, winning multiple NCAA titles, races, awards, you name it. But looking back on your time there, after all of that, what is it that you want to be remembered for during your time there, your legacy?
That's a good question. I think I'm someone who's always put a lot of work, obviously in the pool. I've always really taken that seriously. And and made sure that I'm doing everything I can to be the best possible athlete I could be the best possible teammate I could be. And so I think that's something that I think is important. Like I want to be remembered as someone who had success of their own, but man, I've always had great training partners, and I think I've helped out the guys around me. So something I'm really proud of is the past two Olympics. The other U.S. swimmer is someone that I've trained with, and so that's something that's really cool. Like just the guys that I'm training with are really good. And so I think what that tells me is on a day-to-day basis, the culture is really good. We're going to get after it. We're going to race, but it's never contentious. Like it's always a supportive atmosphere. So I think someone that was a good teammate, worked really hard, and then also worked really hard in the classroom. I always valued that part of the college experience as well.
Oh yeah, academics are huge. I've found that a lot lately.
Oh yeah, I know. Especially as you're going, what are you in? Algebra
Yes,
now. It's
that's my
yeah, yeah.
favorite class.
Hey, there you go. I was always a math kid too. Yeah, those were the best. Math is great because if you're good at it, you're good at it.
Yeah,
It's just
and
kind of what it is.
I've always loved stats with sports, so I like, taking that and applying it here too.
Oh,
Um,
I got to get you in touch with my brother. My brother is like he works in data analytics now,
oh yeah.
and he was exactly like that growing up. He just loved the stats and sports.
And you come from I read like you guys are like a math family. You watch the stock
Hmm.
market. That's one of your hobbies you
Yeah.
wrote on your swim page. And it's just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Like it's different, you know. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, because
and
I think for me, like as I was turning professional and swimming, I was nervous about not having the school to go along with it. Like I graduated college, so I was like, all right, like that was something that always kept me kind of in check, and it kept me pretty balanced. So I was like, all right, what can I do to make sure the mind stays fresh as I'm going through all this training? And so I kind of picked the stock market as a place that I had an interest in, and it does keep me. Hopefully, it's keeping me smart.
oh yeah, and it's definitely something you don't see on many swimmers' pages. That's pretty cool to see that. And then back now to your swimming. In 2016, you competed in your first Olympics, but can you just describe what it was like for you when you first qualified for that? Like, what was that like when you realized you had qualified? And I wonder, like, what do you do after, achieving your dream, making the Olympics? What was the first thing you did after that?
Yeah, so going back to 2016, I mean, going into those races at trials, I was nervous. Man, I was really nervous. So standing behind the blocks, it's like, all right, like I know I'm good. I know I've got talent, but I mean, I've got to perform right now. And that's kind of what I was thinking behind the blocks. It's like I think it's the capabilities there. Let's just try to show it off as best we can in this final. And I say we, I guess that's my mind talking to me. So I guess there's two of me.
Yeah.
But then you go through the race. The execution was great at trials, and when you finish, it's like, I mean, there's so many different emotions going on. I mean, one is like, thank God that's over. That was a lot of pressure. Two is relief that it's over. Three is you're proud, and then you start reflecting on the people that have helped you get there. And those are kind of, I think those are kind of the first thoughts that go through your head. The first one, all right, that's over. Good, we did it. Or yeah, we did it. Like the group of people that have
Oh yeah.
helped me out have helped me do it. And then you really start kind of reflecting on those individual people that have had made a huge impact on your life and a huge impact on your career.
And a similar question here. Uh, in a couple, I got one more for you before we get to Rio, where bigger action happened. You really paid off on that qualification. But before that, something I've always wondered is, what's going on behind the scenes before a race. I know they show the shots of you guys in the room waiting to get out there, but especially your
Mm.
first Olympics there. What's going on for you back there? Do you have like a specific routine you go through? Just what was that like before your first race?
Yeah, so they'll typically have you go to they call it a ready room, about 15 minutes before your race. So you show up, they make sure that your suit is an approved suit, your cap and goggles follow the guidelines. And then you're just kind of chilling there. You're chilling there to right before the race. And everyone goes about it differently. I'm someone like if I'm nervous, like frankly, I am a nervous talker. And I don't think that's necessarily like a great thing going into like a really intense like men's ready room. I don't really want to be just like chatting it up. So I just end up listening to music. I kind of just switched my thing around to listen to music. Really just get in my own space. I think music is the easiest way to influence emotions. So I like doing that. It helps me kind of control what sort of headspace I'm in leading into a race. And then it's really just kind of like stretching. Uh, a lot of times you'll see swimmers hitting themselves. That's just to make sure the blood is flowing. So those are kind of the main things that are going on.
Yeah, music. I have ADHD, a few other things, so my focus is all over the place. Music's kind of what gets me zoned in. I'm talking about it on a Zoom meeting presentation tonight, so that's kind of funny there. But and then in Rio, you got out there and you won your first gold medal and set an Olympic record in the
Mm-hmm.
100-meter backstroke. Can you take us through the events of that race there for you? And I gotta ask, like, you're in the backstroke. Do you ever get a chance to like get a quick peek where you're at? Like, can you tell where you're at during the race?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of seeing where you're at in the race, you could see some. You could see a tiny bit. You could see you could sometimes see the hands next to you. I mean, obviously, if someone's ahead, you can't see a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like then you're kind of like, all right, I don't really know where or how far ahead they are. But if you're ahead, then you kind of see the hands of the people that are a tiny bit behind you. I'll look on the turns a little bit. I mean, you're not supposed to, but what I do, it just kind of helps me like really get into that competitive mode. Um, and then in terms of like going into that first Olympic final, really like really similar emotions compared to trials. Like I was very nervous for that one as well. It's just like all right, like you kind of go through the rounds at a swimming. You've got the preliminaries, you got the semifinals, and then you got the finals. I'll kind of try to conserve energy in prelims and semis. Just try to make sure that when I get to the final, I've got the maximum amount of energy possible. Just going into the final, I was like, all right, like I felt pretty good in prelims and semis. I felt like I conserved well. The races didn't hurt that bad, but you don't really know like what your top end is yet because I hadn't done a top end race at that point in the meet. So I went in. I was nervous, but it was really just trying to keep the focus on executing a race plan. I did that, and it turned out in my favor. So I mean, it was. I mean, the thinking back on it, it's hard for me to remember a ton of the race. I can kind of remember like the last 25 or 15 meters, but the first 75 was definitely a bit of a blur. So that probably can tell you why I went out a little bit slower in that race. I think I was just kind of like all over the board. I didn't really know how to react to that magnitude of a moment.
Yeah, and you got like Dressel. You trained with him growing up. You
Mm-hmm.
known for his second halves in the race, and you really turned it on there. Hit a new gear, Olympic record as I mentioned earlier. But that had to be such a cool experience for you. But as you were talking there, I'm wondering, do you still get nervous before races anymore, like this year in the
Oh yeah,
Olympics?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the things you get nervous about as you get older, as you get experience, the things you get nervous about are a little bit more. I think a little bit more normal. Like like when I was younger, like the things I get nervous about, like oh this race is going to hurt really bad. It's like, well, I go to practice every day, and every practice hurts. So it's like what's so bad about that? It's what kind of the sport. And so as I've gotten older, it's just like I really want to do well. I want to do great here. I think I want to do great for myself because I put in a lot of effort, but also the people around me that have put a lot of effort into my performances as well. So I think the things you get nervous about shift a little bit, but oh yeah, the nerves never go away.
And then back to Rio, you brought home 3 gold medals that year. So, what do you think separated you from the rest of the pack that year? And as an athlete, what was that, authentic Olympic experience like? Because I know this year would have been completely different.
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I think like every swim meet, I mean, there's a little bit of luck because like I can only control me. Like I can't control how fast other people are going. So there's a little bit of luck where it's like, all right, like if everyone's swimming at their 100% true potential, do the races go the same way? I don't know. And so I swam fast, but I think there's a little bit of luck. The preparation is obviously huge. Like I think we really had that dialed in well in 2016. Like it just felt like every step of the way, I was like, all right, we're hitting some good markers here. I felt really confident going into that summer. And then in terms of the Olympic experience, I think in a typical Olympic year, there's so much to do at the Olympics. Like you could go and watch other events. You can explore the village. You can meet people from other countries. You could go to McDonald's every day. There was a McDonald's in the village. So you could do all that stuff. You could go in Rio, you could go down to like Copacabana, hang out at the beach. I didn't take that approach. I was pretty much like, all right, like I've put in a lot of work, and the people around me have put in a lot of work. Like I'm gonna do everything I can to swim fast here. At the end of it, sure, yeah, I'll go explore. I'll go try to meet as many people as I can. But until I'm done, like I'm here and I'm focused. And so that was my mindset through the end of swimming. Once swimming was over, it's like, yeah, let's go down to Copacabana. We'll go to the USA House, which was in that area, interact. And it was great. Like it was really cool because you're just riding such a high. Like going to the Olympics is one, it happens infrequently. Like it's every 4 years, or
Yeah.
in this case, every 5 years. So it's like, all right, like this is a massive event. So you want to go and do everything you can. And that's kind of the mindset I took after 2016. There was a lot of media to do, which I didn't really expect. But then it was fun to kind of see what Rio had to offer, and hang out a little bit.
Yeah, Rio's on my bucket list. I don't like planes, but it's still on there. So this year, the 2020 Olympics, when they were postponed, as an athlete, how did you find out about that, and what was your reaction to it?
Yeah, I mean, I found out the same way everyone else did. So it's kind of over like a notification on my phone, and honestly, like you could kind of see that decision coming down for a couple of days prior to that. It just felt like everything had been shut down at that point. So
Hmm.
it was like, all right, it's just a matter of time before the Olympics shut down. Um, like my coach had called me the night before that decision came down and was like, all right, like Ryan, you've done great. We've had a great season, but we're gonna take some time off here. Like it looks like the Olympics are probably gonna be postponed. So this is consider this like the end of your season. This call, and that's how I treated it. I took 2 weeks off, and then go back into training. And it was a long season after that because we started training in April of 2020, and we kind of rode, like we trained all the way through until this summer. So the longest season I've ever had by far. But yeah, essentially that's how we approached it. It's like, all right, like it sucks. It honestly does suck. We felt like we were in a great spot in March of 2020, but we took advantage of that year as best we can. I felt like I got better over the 2020, 2021 year. And so I didn't really have, like going into this past summer, I didn't really have any regrets about like, oh, if this was a year earlier, I think I would have done better. Like I'm not someone that's really going to dwell on stuff like that. It's like there was nothing we could do to have those games in 2020.
Yeah, and then you still did really good the past summer. It was fun watching you and Caleb go at it here.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, and then you brought home still multiple medals again, but the one I want to single out is the one that you won with the gold that you won with your former Bulls school training partner,
Hmm.
Caleb Dressel.
Hmm.
So you two trained together, as I mentioned. Just what was that like for you to win it with him, and you own a world record together now? Like, can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy how life kind of comes full circle. I started training with Caleb in high school, but I remember the first time we met. Like I was 5 years old, he was 4. So we've known each other a long time, and it's cool to see like two guys from Jacksonville be able to represent Team USA together on that sort of stage. And then relays, like relays in general, are that's the pinnacle of the sport. I think like they're so fun. I always say I am never more confident than when I'm walking out with Team USA for a relay. You're standing next to three absolute studs, and it's like how can you not be confident with that sort of group going behind the blocks? So I mean, it was so cool. It was so special to do it with Caleb. It's just really cool to see like how we've changed, grown, how we've become better athletes as we've gotten older.
Yeah, it was really cool. I watched that one live with my parents, but that was definitely a fun moment to watch on TV, and definitely much better for you actually doing it. but
It was quite fun. Yeah, I will say that.
but now we were talking before the interview about your sports teams, and you mentioned how you root for the Chicago teams unless the Jaguars have a professional team in that league. So you root for the Jaguars, and this past weekend they finally got their first win. What was that like for you, and what are your thoughts on the team this year?
That was great. It looked like throughout the season, you've kind of seen Urban Meyer like have his head in his hands on the sidelines, and you're like, man, this guy is actually putting a lot of work into trying to make this team great. And you can see the same. I think Trevor is a little bit more like subdued, but you could see like the disappointment on his face as they're kind of going throughout the year, and they'd be kind of close. Like their first half throughout the year have been solid. Like it's just their second half, like the other teams are making good adjustments, and they haven't necessarily been able to react super well to that. I think it's just nice to kind of get that monkey off the back, the first one, and I'm excited for the rest of the year. I mean they're playing Seattle next, so I mean we'll be playing against Geno Smith, which will be a little bit interesting. Like that's obviously a little bit more winnable without Russell Wilson in there. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see if they can start stringing together some good games here.
That'd definitely be nice. So
Oh, I know.
I got some would you rather questions to close out the interview here. Would you be up for that?
Let's do it.
All right. So first up, this is my go-to here. Would you rather eat Italian or Mexican food?
Italian.
All right. Would
What
you?
about you?
I'm Italian all day.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just better.
Yes. Um, yeah, it gets some interesting responses though. It's tough for most people. I'm like, yeah, Italian. Um,
Yeah, yeah. There's no hesitation for me either on that one.
yeah, my mom makes great spaghetti, so that's my go-to. Um, would you rather watch TV or read a book?
Watch TV. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm someone if I read a book like 15 pages in, if I'm slightly tired, I'm asleep. So yeah, it's tough for me to read books now.
And you can visually see what's happening on TV. That's what I say to my mom all the time. so, talked to you earlier. You are a Cubs fan. So, I'm a diehard Cubs fan. I've been rooting for the Jaguars ever since I got down here. So I got a would you rather question with those two teams. Would you rather have the Cubs win the World Series next year or the Jaguars win the Super Bowl this year?
I mean, I got to go with the Jags. I don't think it's happening this year, but yeah, the Jaguars are my number one team for sure. I like basketball, I like baseball, but I like football the best.
Oh yeah. And the Jags, they got a bright future. Hopefully we can see that happening sometime soon.
God, yeah, I mean we've suffered. I mean you suffered a little bit less long
A
than I
lot
have.
less from what I can tell.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, we've suffered for a while as Jaguar fans.
Well, you've grown up with the team pretty much I mean, you're just a little older than the team now, so you've grown up with them. So that's all I got for you, Ryan. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Oh, Noah, you are the man. This was great. Yeah, and I love that you're doing this. It's I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see, like, as a freshman in high school, you're doing something that's sweet. You've gotten some great people on here, so I'm glad we were able to find the time, and it's good getting to know you a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you. Thank you guys for watching this interview. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. Go over and check out my podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, I believe, as well. Go check it out there. Give me a follow. Download the episode. Support in any way you can. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.